Sorry, Kim.
We're ready. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to our City Council meeting. It's good to see some of you. Thank you for making the adjustment that it's earlier, right? Starting early at 5. So this is the second time that we've started at 5 o'clock. We are continuing our tradition. That's a wonderful tradition we have of opening in prayer. And I appreciate Pastor Mark Walker from College Church of the Nazarene being here to open us in prayer. Thank you, Mark.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the many blessings that we have and for the opportunity to call Nampa home. And God, tonight as we gather here with those who are entrusted to lead and manage this community, we just pray for your wisdom and discernment as they seek to govern well for all those who consider this their home. Be with us tonight. In your name we pray. Amen. It's time for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Jingula.
Here.
Bills.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
Griffin.
Here.
All present.
I am not aware of any amendments to the agenda. Council, do you have any proposed amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to adopt the agenda as is. All in favor? Any opposed? And I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. I can move it faster than I can turn my pages. All right, staff communication, planning and zoning. Rodney.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. For the record, Planning and Zoning Director Rodney Ashby. So last week was our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We had several projects. We had 6 total public hearings. One of those had to be continued just because of the late hour. The first one was the comp plan amendment from MDR to RMU and rezone to RD. Rezone RD to BN at 605 13th Avenue North. This was for a property that's a residential style building and operate a clinic providing counseling services in the north end near Lakeview Park. And this was recommended for approval, and this will go before you on the 3rd of February. The next one was a conditional use permit for a duplex in an RS6 zone at 611 South Olive Street. This was an existing duplex that never got a conditional use permit, but has operated as a duplex for years and years. And they're tearing down one of the units and rebuilding it, and then remodeling the old one, or the one that they didn't tear down. So it's an improvement to an existing condition that was approved by Planning and Zoning. The next one was an annexation and to IL at 17270 Northside Boulevard. This is for a laydown yard for Construction Supply Company, so not a lot of improvements or anything at this point, but just getting the allowed use. That's why they're coming in for annexation, not connecting you to utilities or anything at this time. But that one was recommended for approval, and that will come before you on the 3rd of February. The next one was the Deer Flat Ranch annexation. It's a master plan community and a preliminary plat. And this is at 2923 South Midland Boulevard and 2715 and number 9 Midland Boulevard. So this is just off of South Midland and south of Greenhurst Road. And this is the Keto subdivision or Keto property. The Ketos are the owners there. The proposal is 189 single-family detached lots, 7 commercial lots, 3 agricultural lots, 25 common lots, and city pathway along Midland Boulevard. And that one was recommended for approval with suggested conditions for a development agreement as well. And then that will come before you on the 18th of February. That one had significant public participation, so we're going to try to limit the number of public hearings that night. Then the last one was a conditional use permit for Amity Landing for multifamily in a BC zone. So this is just south of Columbia High School, right off of Amity Boulevard, or Amity Avenue, and for 80 dwelling units in 5 three-story buildings, 3-story high buildings, 16 units each. And that one was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. That's all I have.
Council, do you have any questions for Rodney? Rodney, thank you very much. We appreciate that update. And thank you for the heads up on those that will have we anticipate a large participation. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to new business at this time, and we only have one new business item. And as council can tell, we're moving things to consent, which is great. This is 5.1. It is an action item, and this is to authorize payment to Treasure Valley Transit in the amount of $124,927 to meet the local match requirements. for capital replacement of 2 buses and 2 vans that serve the city of Nampa. I'm just wondering if we should have Mark come up and go ahead and give us a little background as a reminder, because we did approve this during our budget workshops. So I don't know if you'd like to provide just it's in the packet, so I guess I would ask the question, Council, do you have any questions regarding what is in your packet? Councilman Haverfeld.
Mark, I have a question. In the packet, it indicated that the city is funding $124,000, this proposal, which is 20% of the total cost of the vehicles. But I couldn't find if 20% was the cost, or I said 20% of the total cost. What is the full total cost? That wasn't listed in the packet.
I'm going to defer to Ms. Terry Lindberg, Executive Director of Treasure Valley Transit, and she can answer any of those specific details about the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Good
Great,
evening.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh,
We
glad
appreciate
to.
it.
Well, good evening, Mayor Kling, members of the City Council. I'm happy to answer any questions you had. The total cost of the 2 buses is $382,664. The federal share is $306,131. So the local match that I'm asking for tonight is the 20%, which is $76,533 for the 2 buses. The vans are a total cost of $241,970. The federal share is $193,576, and the local match for those 2 are a total of $48,394. That's where I came with my total of $124,927.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Council, do you have any other questions?
Mayor? So there's some other municipalities, I'm trying to pull it up, I couldn't remember which 2, I think it was Eagle and someone else, that they were also using these as well. Are they using these buses, or are these just for Nampa specific?
Oh, these are just for Nampa
Okay.
specifically. And I thought, if I may, because Mark even said it might be a good idea if I address the difference between our service and VRTs, you know, because so my voice is a little gone. I don't know why, but anyway, Treasure Valley Transit has operated in Canyon County since 1992. In 1995, we became a non-emergency medical transportation provider. You know, so our services have remained that. We serve persons with both cognitive and physical disabilities. It's a demand response, door-to-door service. Also those low income on Medicaid, those with mental health issues, dialysis. That's what we serve and have done since 1995. And we continue to do so. Prior to COVID, we did about 45,000 trips a year. When COVID occurred, we have not come back, and there's several reasons for that. Part of it was based on telehealth. Some of the clients we served no longer remained in the system. And then there's issues with Department of Health and Welfare. So that's why our revenues decreased substantially and placed us in part in this position needing additional assistance for our 2 buses and our 2 vans. Valley Ride does microtransit, and then they also do fixed route, and they do something called Beyond Access. Their Beyond Access I'm familiar with. It serves also seniors and persons with disabilities. However, we are not a part of any of that. I would like to note that previous to 2018, TVT received what was called 5310 Small Urban under the Idaho Transportation Department. However, that funding, because it was small urban in Nampa, was transferred to the Valley Regional Transit Authority. That's how TVT receives approximately $240,000 a year through VRT as a pass-through. But we do not currently do any Beyond Access transportation or the microtransit or any of the services that VRT currently provides. And our vehicles strictly are for the services we do in Nampa. We split it out because we also serve Caldwell.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor, I have a few questions now. It sparked interest.
Okay.
With multiple contracts for transportation specifically targeting this in-need medical assistance transportation, is there any confusion that you've had from passengers of whether to go with VRT's Beyond Access or TVT? Have you seen any issue there?
We have seen some questions that come our way. I will say that there's always been some confusion. Senator Lake, you can probably realize this from when Treasure Valley Transit, who did start up the fixed route service within the area, was no longer a provider in 2005. It's been almost 20 years, and there's still confusion on who is TVT and who is VRT. So to answer that question, it's a different style of service. So for the Beyond Access, especially the microtransit, not everybody can access that, so we do get calls for people that need appointments, and we do a private pay to allow for that. So we do see that within the city of Nampa as well. As far as the Beyond Access, I'm not familiar too much with the VRT numbers and all of that, but I do know, to answer your question, we get calls there because if they're unable to provide that service, they come to us because we're here. So I hope that helps.
Hey, follow-up, Mayor.
Yes?
What percentage of your funding of that, okay, let me restart.
Okay.
You received $240,000 as pass-through. How much of a percentage is that in your overall budget?
14%.
Okay. And if in the future there needed to be expansions, is that something that you're able to do, or is that something that needs to be permitted by VRT, or what? How does the umbrella fall for
Okay,
you?
it does get complex, but there was a vote back in 1998 for the Regional Transit Authority. The vote took place in Ada County and also in Canyon County. In fact, Canyon County had a higher vote for it. Now, the structure that's in place is that both Ada and Canyon County come together under the board. And that's the structure. So the jurisdiction remains, I would say, within the board, the overall board, that's the Valley Regional Transit Board. TVT is in a position where if we needed to expand services or play a more of an active role in Nampa, we would gladly be able to do it. I feel we're a very good and successful company, and we would be willing to do that. Going back to seeing that loss in services in Nampa under the non-emergency medical transportation, that was going from 46,000 down to 31,000. And we're currently working closely with Health and Welfare to try to reestablish that volume. There's a lot to that too, complex issue when it's competitive between new companies that come in paying $10 an hour per driver versus us very professional company. So we would be glad to look at any avenue that we could enhance transportation in Nampa.
One final question, Mayor, because now you've sparked my interest again. If we were to expand services, do you have facilities to be able to manage the amount of demand that potentially the city could have for you in the future?
We currently purchased a brand new building. It took us 10 years. We're located in the old Fish and Game. If we were to assist in helping expand service in any way, we do have the facility to do so now. We didn't before. The issue would be capital, the buses, things like that, if we were to take on anything, in addition to what we've already had, because that's our struggle right now. I'll be honest, the buses went from, 125,000 to over 200,000 in less than 4 years. And that's been an incredible challenge all around.
Go ahead.
You got to stop.
I know.
Just two quick questions.
Yes.
I see that you're a nonprofit.
Correct.
Is the VRT also a nonprofit?
No, they're a governmental entity.
Okay.
And I'd like to address our nonprofit status. We are under the Idaho Transportation Department, Public Transportation Systems, no different than Pocatello Regional Transit. However, Pocatello's under the city, Kootenai County up north under the county. We're one of 2 nonprofits. It's how we were established. We did, in 2002, attempt to coordinate with VRT to see if we could become a department of. That did not come to fruition. At the same time, we attempted to go under Canyon County. That did not come into fruition, at which point they contracted out the services. And we were not fortunate enough to be able to get that contract based on them going with First Transit, and First Transit being able to do a lease buyback for all new vehicles. That wasn't something that we could do. So to Councilor Griffin, that brings up that issue of capital. If we were to do any more service within this area, capital would be an issue.
So would you have to relinquish your nonprofit status to be able to grow?
No.
Okay.
No, we're fully secured in that nonprofit status. The drawback to being a nonprofit is it makes our financial position all that more, we are very fiscally conservative because we can't fall back on a city or a county, as some of my colleagues are able to do, in times of financial challenge. As we have all been facing, we did receive some CARES Act funding. That's all going away, and that's made an impact on cities and counties as well as us. So that's a part of it, but I do want to say something, if I may, and Miranda has it. In October, I was at the Idaho Transportation Department Summit. I did not know this was happening, but we received the Outstanding Transportation Service for 2024, and I'm very proud of that. And this is eligible to all public transportation systems in the state, including VRT and all the others. And it was not something we nominated ourselves for. It was something that was awarded to us and voted on by all the other transit providers throughout the state. So I just wanted to say we're very proud of that.
Congratulations.
And it all began in Nampa.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You should be proud of that. That is awesome. We're happy for you. That is great. So, Councilman Griffin, because this evening's action item is a little bit different than the questioning, I think we should come back to your questioning. You have some really good questions, and thank you for those. But the item before us this evening is to authorize the payment to Treasure Valley Transit that we did approve in the FY25 budget in the amount of $124,927, which is meeting the local match requirements for the capital replacement of 2 buses and 2 vans that serve the city of Nampa.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to approve it, and I wish you could expand. We need you here in Nampa.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just really quickly, for anyone that's listening after hearing the explanation and they might think that this service is good for them, what's a good contact number they can contact to reach you to reach out about service?
For us, the number is 9111.
Thank you so much.
That's why I have Miranda here as Mayor Kling knows. She's my right hand.
Thank you.
That's why the mayor
you.
has 6 others be with her.
Yes, especially sitting at the bench.
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jingola.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Terry, thank you. Thank you to
Thank
Treasure
you.
Valley
It
Transit.
means the
We
world
appreciate
to
it.
us. It was so needed. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the service. Thank you. Because we have a shortened agenda today, we are going to move over, and Teresa, I see that you're here, but we're going to hold the public forum until about 5:45 so that others can be here. I don't know if we have others signed up that aren't here yet. We're going to move to unfinished business. So we'll go over to 9.1. 9.1 is an action item. It's the first reading of ordinance for a zoning code text amendment of Title 10, Chapter 15, to add a new section regarding the city-owned trash enclosure installed on Wall Street in the downtown historic zoning district for the city of Nampa. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance adding a new section to Nampa City Code, Title 10, Chapter 15, subsection 7.k, regarding trash receptacles on Wall Street. This ordinance adds to Title 10, Chapter 15, regarding purpose, applicability, committee review procedure, administrative procedure, application requirements, design standard requirements, providing for severability, providing a savings clause, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Madam Mayor, I move this pass under suspension of rules.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I just have a question. I know the comment was brought up in our last public hearing or public forum. Did we ever get those gentlemen the information on the code? They had mentioned a monopoly, and I know this is somewhat related to that, talking about the trash issue. I was curious on a follow-up on that.
So that is a very different issue than this one.
Okay.
This is just the downtown trash enclosure on Wall Street that is being constructed in that parking lot. Very different topic. I can find out afterwards if we followed up
worries.
on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
I'm going to ask that we, for a motion for a very brief executive session, this is an action item, motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A to consider the hiring of a public officer or employer staff member, and B, to consider evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining thereof of a public officer, employer, staff member.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we will be adjourning into executive session for just about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll have a brief break, and we'll be right back to finish our meeting. Okay, I think we're ready to get started and resume our meeting. Thank you for waiting, and I apologize that you are waiting. So the next section of our meeting is our public forum where we have an opportunity. And I think the first person, I'll let you go ahead.
Madam Mayor, our first person is Teresa Laird.
And Teresa, thank you. Go ahead and come forward and share your name and your address, but thank you for joining us tonight. It's good to see you.
My name is Teresa Laird, 87 North Robinson Road, Nampa, Idaho. And I am
Pull
here,
that down just a hair. Good job, thank you.
and I am here on behalf of JustServe.org. And JustServe.org, for those that don't know, is a website app that's provided to communities that bring the needs of the community together with volunteers. And we just wanted to recognize Nampa, Idaho, as a Just Serve city. There's so many good things that happen in our city, and of course there's needs, but we have the heart of servants here, and we're just so grateful. And grateful for a wonderful mayor and city council. I know I've seen so many of you at different events and just different service opportunities. So Just Serve has been around since 2012, and it started in California. We now are in 14 countries, and we have over 370,000 volunteers on our website, and we've worked on over 58,000 service projects. And back in COVID days when we had the masks, and I think we all still have lots of masks sewn by all these wonderful ladies in the community, or in our closets still. There, I hope they stay. But again, we just wanted to thank you and recognize you and present you with the Just Serve City larger plaque. And it just looks like this. So, but we wanted to thank you again, and thank you. Can I just give this to you?
Yeah, come on up and let's do a picture up here. So council, I think you know how to do this. Scoot this one back. Oh. Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you. Teresa, I just want to say you are such an amazing servant in our community that does so much and that gives back so much. Your smiling face, all that you do, the thank you really goes to you. Thank you for being amazing and so great to work with. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Teresa.
I know we do. Thank you. Yeah, we could maybe set it. Yeah, thank you. I know she is. I know she is. We'll set that there. I'll look at it later. Thank you, Teresa.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is David Rhodes.
And Teresa, thank you because you had to sit here for a good 45 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
And your
for all the work that you do to...
name again and address.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name is David Rhodes, 1454 West Lark.
Can you turn it on there or I don't. Do we need a different mic?
No, he accidentally turned it
Oh, okay. There we go. It's thinking? Is it on?
Testing.
Okay, there
Is
we
it good?
go. Okay, so now we'll just start again.
Okay.
Hi, David. Go ahead and give us your full name again and your address.
Yes, my name is David Rhodes. My address is 1454 West Lark Court, Nampa.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for all the work that you do to make our city a wonderful place to live. I especially want to express my appreciation for the outdoor facilities available in our parks, including the pickleball, tennis, basketball, and futsal courts. These spaces provide free, accessible opportunities for people to stay active, connect with others, and enjoy the outdoors, which is an invaluable resource for our community. I'm here to request that the city work with the Parks Department to install lighting at our outdoor sporting courts, especially at the combination basketball and futsal court located at Midway Park. As someone who organizes a weekly futsal game at Midway Park, I've seen firsthand how these spaces bring people together. We consistently have a great turnout, and many participants have shared how much they value having a free and fun way to stay active. However, as the days grow shorter, we're losing the ability to use the courts during the evening, which is the primary time when most people are available. I've also spoken with others who use the courts for basketball and even roller hockey, and they've told me that they would use the facilities more often if they were lit. Adding lighting would not only extend the usability of these courts into the darker winter months, but it would also allow for safer play during hot summer evenings when it's too hot to be active when the sun is out. Investing in lighting for these courts would significantly enhance our city's outdoor recreational opportunities, benefiting residents of all ages. These facilities foster physical health, build our community, and create a safe space for people to gather. Lighting would allow even more people to enjoy these benefits. So thank you for considering this request and for your ongoing dedication to our parks and recreation programs. I hope we can work together to ensure these courts remain accessible and enjoyable for everyone year-round. Thank you.
David, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for using the facilities, and thank you for the recommendation on the lighting. It's appreciated. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you. Yes,
I apologize. Just a quick question for you, not necessarily David. I know it got brought up that when we were discussing the phases of Midway Park, that be considered. What was the update or the status of that with phase 2 or phase 3 of the parks facilities getting lighting?
usually, I was going to say usually Darren's here, but he's not tonight, so go ahead.
So Daniel Badger, city engineer. The county has not allowed lighting in the park in the county at this point. And so that would require some work with them to get them to allow us to put lighting in there. At this point, they have the jurisdiction, and their rules have not allowed us to do that at this point.
Is that something, I know for at least me personally, I do use the pickleball facilities. I don't play futsal or even know what it is, but I understand the same dynamic. Is that something us as council members can go and urge the commission, or who do we need to visit with? Because we've heard, while I've been here 10 months, we've heard it very often.
I can certainly follow up with Darren and find out who over there at the county we would need to speak to try to get that changed. I believe that was part of our approvals through the county that we not put lighting in. And so it may require a new application and request to the county to change that. But I can certainly talk to Darren tomorrow and we can figure out what that process would be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Holly Hawes.
Good evening. And even though you've been here before, we'll have to do the name and address again.
It's okay. I'm Holly Hawes, and I live on 120 Hudson Avenue, Apartment B, in Nampa. And I'm happy to make a positive report first. I wanted to thank the mayor and the council for the impetus that they've done and to help solve this problem of speeding going on in our streets, especially Nampa and Smith. Anyway, the two things that have helped is blinking school light, great big one with a warning sign between 7 and 4 o'clock in the evening, that it has to be 20 miles an hour. But my understanding is that the whole area is supposed to be 20 miles an hour. And so I hear a lot of screeching brakes when they get to that sign. And there's also speed check cords that I think are real smart because it does verify the speed as people go past that area, and that will also help. Normally, Robert Kuhn comes and he speaks about the noise because he's hearing this boom, 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 boom box, and I hear that too. And I even wrote it all down on my clipboard time after time after time during the day, and I have a next door neighbor that sleeps during the day. But that doesn't bother him because he can make the noise at 2 in the morning when I'm sleeping too. anyway, so that is annoying, and he's working on that, and mostly. Matt Messina also wanted to be here, but neither one of them are feeling very well. They have health issues. I just wanted to mention one thing, that Matt Messina, he's really smart with the mechanical stuff and the legal things, and he just wanted to bring out, for him personally, he only sees speed bumps as being helpful on that particular, at least on our street. I haven't evaluated all the others, but I do know there's similar issues all the way around that area. Let's see, is that it? He also, this is Matt Messina, and he lives on a lower level, and he's out quite a bit in the morning and evening. For me, it's too cold now, and it's dark anyway, so I'm cuddling in my house. But he said that he sees trucks and trailers before 7 and after 4 that are just speeding down that street like what it is for most of them is, what do you call it, anyway, I can't remember the name, but then that's my weakness. Shortcuts, that they take shortcuts, and he's seen trailers being hauled, business trucks that don't do any business on those streets, and they're not even supposed to be on the streets, but they're using our street as a shortcut to get onto the other main streets. And especially in those hours now that it's more restricted during those school hours, and that has helped some. But it has actually made it a little bit worse morning and evening. And that's all I had to say. Thank you.
We are continuing to work on your behalf, and let discussions continue. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we do not have any more public forum.
Is there anyone here this evening that had intended to sign up? Margie.
I never know if I'm going to actually say anything or not. So, Margie Potter, 1811 North Cobble Way in Nampa. And first, I want to thank Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez and Peter back there for showing up to the Idaho Hispanic Foundation's ribbon cutting last week. It was super amazing how many people showed up for it. There's over 250 people there. We were standing there talking, I was like, look at all these people. It was just made me so happy to see that building being used, and how many people were excited to be there. It was great, wasn't it? And we even had the Mexican consul here joined us, so it was great, and all the news was there. But the thing that I'm here is to let you guys, of course, my flyer is not on here now, but Share the Day is on Thursday, the 21st, and I think Amy's going to send something to all of you, the flyer, to let you know, because I meant to bring them here, but then I left them on my desk. But and they've been in the newsletter, the city newsletter as well. But Region 3 Housing Coalition and the Idaho Hispanic Foundation have teamed up this year to do Share the Day. It used to be we had at First Christian Church for years. It's been there, but we thought we would put the building to use, came from the Healthy Impact Nampa. We decided that we would have it there and show off the resource center there this year. So we have over 31 providers signed up to give services to people in our community. There's food boxes, housing resources, wellness checks through Cherry Riley. That's why I needed the flyer, because it had all the things on coats. Just all kinds of services for people that are free. It's totally free, and so that building's getting used for that. Oh, and there's lunch between 11:30 and 3 from Texas Roadhouse is providing the mashed potatoes, green beans, and rolls, and all that. And Salvation Army's doing the desserts, and then turkeys they're ready to go. So come over there and have some lunch and see what's going on, how the building's being used, and even if you just got a few minutes to come on over there and check it out would be much appreciated.
Thank you for that reminder. I really appreciate it. It is wonderful to see the building, the Idaho Hispanic Community Center, active and busy and full. Thank you, and thank you for the invitation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. Margie?
Yes.
Yeah.
You said 11, but I have here on my schedule is 10 o'clock.
It's at 10, sorry, the lunch is from 11 to 1:30. The event is 10 to 3, sorry about that. Yeah, so there'll be, please come by and see what's going on, because it is, you saw it, and now you're going to see how many providers we've brought together to partner with that building, right? And that's what it's supposed to be for. So, and Jose de Leon is doing everything he can to, get that building paid so our tax dollars aren't paying for that, but we're able to do this as well for people that need resources in our community. So I feel like the city's doing their due diligence there with allowing that to be there.
And Amy just sent out an email reminder.
Yeah, I asked her to do that. Thank you very much. I'm glad she did that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, it's time for our public hearings. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Did you want to speak on something, a non-public hearing item?
Yes.
Okay, and you know the ropes.
For the record, my name is Kent Brown, 3161 East Springwood, Meridian, Idaho. I thought the lights in the park was an interesting discussion. In my early 20s, I lived in Minneapolis for a short period of time, and they had ball fields during the summer, and they had timers on those. And then when winter came, it was the most unusual thing I'd ever seen. They came out with plywood and would run the hose, stand the plywood up, and they made ice skating rinks. So you'd be walking around Minneapolis in the neighborhoods, and you'd be hearing just skates and maybe a little bit of cussing now and then, or someone hurt. But the neat thing about that was that they had a timer. And that's what I wanted to bring up, is that being in residential neighborhoods, that people might not necessarily want that glaring all night long. It sends people out of the park when the lights go off. But that was when they knew it was time to go home. So, I think that having that and extending that is a really good idea, but maybe a timer would make it more palatable for more people, including the county.
Yeah, thank you for that
Thanks.
recommendation. That's appreciated. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm curious in that city how many liability claims they had in those parks with these hoses running all these ice rinks. I'm curious. You signed the waiver before? Okay, good to know.
Okay, we are going to move into our public hearings, and our first public hearing, 8.1, is an action item. It's the annexation and zoning to light industrial and a potential development agreement at 8615 Cherry Lane. This is a 2-acre parcel for Tanner Lindquist, representing A1 Cherry LLD. And is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Hi. Thank you for sharing your name and address and telling us about the project.
Tanner Lindquist, 8665 West Emerald Street in Boise. I'm going to keep it short and simple for you. It's just a small enclave parcel. We're not looking for any different zoning that's surrounding it. We've reviewed both the staff report and the decision letter from Planning and Zoning. Have no notes or issues, so I am here to help answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. And as you know, you'll get to come back, but council, do you have any questions right now? We'll let the staff go ahead and do the presentation, then you'll be back right after the public hearing.
Yep, sounds
Thank
good.
you so much. Good evening, Rodney.
Mayor and City Council, for the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. As he said, this is pretty straightforward. It's completely surrounded by industrial. I'll get to that in just a second. So it's just annexation and zoning to IL. There's the location on the screen. I showed Cherry and Madison. So October 15th, the Nampa City Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval based on the findings that were in the staff report. So staff can reasonably recommend approval based on the compliance with city plans and codes. So this is the comprehensive plan, future land use map, and you can see that it's all industrial in this area. Here's the zoning map. Again, the IL completely surrounds this project. And a little closer view there. Even closer of the exact property. And then here's the utilities available in the area. The sewer 8-inch stub from Madison Road to the lot east of the subject lot, approximately depth at manhole plus or minus 7 feet. Future development will need to coordinate with the east property owner to secure easement across their lot for sewer main extensions. And then, of course, the water is right up to the property. And then pressure irrigation, 10-inch main at Cherry Lane and Madison Road intersection. Here's the concept site plan that they provided. Again, this is just concept. The property that we're speaking of is the one that's hashed, Mark. So it's trying to incorporate into all the other properties that were already zoned, annexed and zoned into the city. So it'll be one project, industrial project, and the hash mark is just this specific site that was excluded because it had a home on the property at the time. So annexation, here's the criteria. Those 3 bulleted items you need to find in order to approve annexation. And here are the 3 criteria for zoning. Gone through these before, so I won't spend any time on it. Here are the spatial and bulk requirements for the IL zone. And again, IL zone is industrial, light industrial uses. Pretty familiar with those uses. Again, I just kind of highlighted a few key points from the IL zoning, some language about exterior storage and the need for screening. And then land uses. I do have the set of land uses in your packet, as well as in the staff, in this presentation, if you need to look at those. Applicable regulations, design review for IL zone buildings. I just wanted to highlight the high-level design review standards that we require now for light industrial. Here are the general comments from engineering. Their specific conditions. Again, we just want to highlight that a TIS will likely be required for the project if the whole industrial project is developed. They will require frontage improvements and a 10-foot wide side path along the arterial, which is Cherry Lane. Here are the conditions that they listed, pretty standard conditions. Nampa Fire also highlighted their ability to serve this area and an estimated response time of 4 minutes, which beats their goal of 5 minutes. So I consider this, I know it doesn't look like it, but it is infill because it's totally surrounded by industrially annexed zone properties. It fits the comprehensive plan of industrial, and it's in the public interest to provide jobs and services. So here are the proposed conditions of approval. Mostly those are engineering standards, but then just general compliance with city code. So conclusions, the property is contiguous with city limits on all sides of the property. With the proposed conditions of approval, the area can reasonably be assumed to be available for the orderly development of the city because it is an enclaved property in a developing area, and utilities and services are available or are already being provided to the property. The proposed IL zoning district is consistent with the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of industrial for this area because it falls within the industrial designation on the map, and the plan narrative describes the IL zoning district as appropriate for this designation. The proposed map amendment is in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan map because it falls within the industrial designation on the map. And again, the plan narrative describes the IL zoning district as appropriate for this designation and as an infill project is consistent with the plan narrative and goals. These are the last two. With the proposed conditions of approval, the proposed map amendment provides for proposed uses that will be reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses because the land uses options are the same for those adjoining properties of IL on all sides of the property. And then finally, the proposed map amendment would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because industrial development is an essential component of city needs and interests and is supported by the comprehensive plan, including infill. So here are a couple of options for your motion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Rodney, you had a presentation concept for the site plan. Can you go to that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oops, there it was.
The question I have is, perhaps we didn't need to see this in our packet, but that answered several of the questions. I was just wondering why that wasn't included in our packet.
Yeah, it was a mistake on my part. I didn't see that.
But there wasn't any reason other than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Because that obviously is an important graphic to have.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you. I just wanted to find out why.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Rodney? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up on this matter?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone that didn't advance sign up.
Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this item this evening? Seeing no one, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back. If there are any questions, council, do you have any questions for the applicant? Do you have any comments you'd like to make? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, what is the will of the council?
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the annexation of zoning to IL and potential development agreement for future development of 8615 Cherry Lane, a 2-acre parcel, R314601 for Tanner Lindquist, representing AL Cherry? AI Cherry LLD. Annexation number ANN 00312-2024 with proposed conditions and formal findings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Bills?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Tanner. Thank you for your work. Thank you. You get to go home early. Isn't that great? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I should pay attention there. Okay, 8.2 is an action item, annexation and zoning to RS4, single-family residential, and a potential development agreement for a future residential subdivision, Shadow Creek at Lake Lowell at 1408 Lake Lowell Avenue. This is a 2.06 acre parcel for Blake Wolf. And our applicant, Blake, good evening. And thank you, but share your name and address.
Yes.
Thank you
My
for
name is
being
Blake Wolf. I live at 843 West Horizon Way in Nampa. And I thought my project was considered an enclave or infill, but his definitely is the most infill I've seen. This is a 2-acre parcel on Lake Lowell. It's, I would consider, probably one of the last in this stretch of Lake Lowell that would be developed into an maybe a new development. It is eligible for annexation because it is surrounded by several other parcels and developments that are in the city. And it's pretty much surrounded by all single-family homes. There is one small, I think it's a 1-acre development with 10 townhome lots on it across the street. I'm choosing the RS4 designation for several reasons. I need higher density for this project to work. And these infills always have some sort of uniqueness, and this one, besides its shape, is the amount of cleanup. I assume that a lot of you have seen this parcel. I estimate maybe 30 trees on this small parcel and an old house, including a tree that completely covers over Lake Lowell. So very expensive cleanup there. And then just in general, all infills are very expensive to develop, so that explains the need for density. But instead of a multifamily density, a single-family detached product here makes the most sense. So with the RS4 designation, I intend to submit a preliminary plat that you guys should have the concept in your staff report. Is that available? Or can I click through it? There you go. Thanks, Rodney. This is a very simple road design and layout of the 2 acres with 12 single-family detached homes, building lots, and 3 common lots. The 3 common lots exceed the minimum open space, and the 12 single-family home sites are less than the 14 that could fit on this. Each lot is roughly 37 foot wide and 110 feet deep. The lots are wide enough to handle a standard 2-car garage, standard 2-car wide garage with a standard driveway in front. It's got the required hammerhead at the north end for the fire truck turnaround. And the width of the road design section will allow parking all along the east side in a parallel fashion where it will roughly give 12 to 13 spots. So what that equates to is 5 parking spots and 2 covered spots per building lot. This subdivision will have a traditional HOA to handle parking as one, and the open space and common maintenance. I held a neighborhood meeting and there was a very large turnout. These small infills, especially one like this where it's very established all around, there's a lot of neighbors. And a lot of them came out. Is my understanding this was the 3rd proposal they've received, and the other 2 were higher density, including one multifamily project. There was a lot of opinions, everything from traffic and one family would like to keep this as is. They'd rather look at this than new development. But for the most part, the concern was the density, and I explained to them that I needed the density for this project to work, and they really wanted it to look more like the RS6, which is next door to the west. So if you take this concept and lay it over to that road, it matches almost identically in density. It's probably a lot or maybe 2 different if you just kind of flip it over. So it's very close to what they were asking for, the bulk of the neighbors that showed up in that meeting. Let's see. Yeah, one of the concerns was the traffic, and this, I mean, that's kind of the benefit of infills is it's established all around, and in this part of Lake Lowell, it does have the turn lane. I do see that's a neighbor typed in and sent in a letter, and their concern was the intersection, and it is signaled, and with the 3 lanes that this small project, it really won't trigger any traffic impact. Yeah, that's all I've got. I'll wait for the presentation and then questions.
Question, Mayor?
Yes.
So on Lot 10, is it likely that that would have a 5-foot setback on the south side and a 10-foot setback on the north side?
I think that's fair to say, yes.
So I'd give a building envelope of 22 feet?
That one, yes.
And how would you get a two-car garage in there?
I could come in from the Hammerhead and drive in that way.
Okay.
This is a concept. We could possibly move up the Hammerhead a few feet if we need to the north.
But then if you came in from the Hammerhead, would you not need a 20-foot instead of 15 feet?
If that's considered the front. Yeah, it'll be a challenging lot, that one. Good catch. We could possibly take what would that be, the northwest section and bump it up towards lot 11 and figure out how to come in through maybe a rear garage there with a driveway. This is a concept, so I might be playing with this one, yeah.
Or possibly decrease the density, which I know is not your goal.
That is not my goal, yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes.
My question has to do with density as well. Given that the neighborhoods surrounding our 6,000 square foot minimums, have you ran the projections, and why isn't it more similar to the surrounding area?
Well, it is. I mean, it's like I said, if you take this and flip it over onto Spruce Creek, it's very close to the same density. It's within a lot or two. I can't take on the project without the density. So that is why I'm going for the RS4. I know it is surrounded by RS6, and I know that is the kind of the talking points of this project is the density.
So when you say you won't take on the project, even with a reduction of 2 lots less, it wouldn't potentially be that way if that's something that's considered?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, as you know, you'll be back. So this is a public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up this evening? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm ready to go to public hearing. Thank you, Shar. I appreciate that. Thank you. I was just ready to go.
Madam Mayor and Council, Rodney Ashby, Planning Director. This project, he did a really good job of describing it, so I probably don't need to spend too much time on this. Let me just jump in on a couple of key points. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with the proposed conditions and findings. Meets code and our plans. The medium density designation, you can see that. It's right in the middle of a really big area of medium density. Here's the zoning. So all around it is RS6, except for up close, you can see RA on some of those county properties. And just to be clear, the RA designation that was given to these properties a long time ago, it doesn't meet our comprehensive plan currently, but at the time, they allowed those larger lots to come in as a designation of RA. It just kind of matched what they were proposing at the time, and so that's why you see those throughout the community. But if this were to redevelop the RA subdivision or properties in this area, they would not be allowed to just, let's say those were all just blank and coming in for annexation. They could not annex it and zone it as RA at this point. But it is zoned RA, and so they have those entitlements in place. So utilities are available, South Creek subdivision to the west, and those were most of the comments we received, and I'll get to that in just a second, but we did receive some comments from those county properties, those RA zoned properties, and then several people at the hearing were there from the South Creek subdivision. There's the concept plan, the conditions of approval for annexation and zoning, the setbacks, and that was very astute to look at that and say 10 feet is required next to the road, so absolutely, that would be required. So that does make that challenging. There's the size of the lots that are allowed, and then I just threw this in here. Parking will be assessed at the time of the permit, but this is the required 2 per dwelling unit, and one of those has to be covered. Building department gave their fairly standard comments about complying with building code. Nampa code compliance identified this as having weeds and debris, not weed, weeds and debris. And that will be taken care of as the property develops. Engineering division made their conditions listed here, and I put all those conditions in our proposed conditions. Nampa Police Department identified the need for additional staff and officers. And then Nampa Fire, again, had a response time of 4 minutes, which was faster than their goal of 5 minutes. I did receive 2 letters of correspondence, one from Jeremy Banfield. This one was late in the packet for planning and zoning, so I forgot to go back and include that in your packet. So I have that before you on your desk and back on the back table for the public. But I did highlight that in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And so his concerns were primarily about traffic, and he didn't want to see this property developed until improvements were made to each of these intersections. And then Jessica Selkow at 1409 Lake Lowell Avenue was also in opposition for these reasons. Essentially, it's an RA zone, larger lot. She purchased the property expecting it to be that similar feel. And so she also identified concerns about this not providing enough parking and the size of or the amount of traffic that would be coming out of here for these 12 homes. And then public hearing concerns, as was mentioned, the number of units was a concern. Again, they have 8 directly west of them, so that's a difference of 4, but it's also a little bit wider. So it's, as was stated, it's a little bit more dense, but not as dense as you would expect, because we require a open space where the subdivision next door didn't have that requirement. Land uses, this is an enclave property and is truly infill. This is the definition of infill. The comprehensive plan identifies the medium density designation. It also talks about infill development and the need to try to encourage that type of development. Public interest, the property is enclaved and would be considered infill. Services are available. I think I can keep moving there. This is just an analysis of all of the different requirements of the RS4 zoning district. I'm happy to pause on this if we need, but I think I'll just keep going if that's okay. Proposed conditions of approval, all listed in your staff report, and we've highlighted some of those already. And the proposed findings, I'm not going to read this because it was in your packet and it's on the screen there. And then a couple of motions for your consideration.
Thank you, Rodney. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for Rodney? Okay, now this time we can go to public hearing. We get this right. Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, our first speaker is Jessica Selkow.
Jessica, as you come forward, thank you for giving your name again and your address, and you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Jessica Silko. I live at 1409 Lake Lowell Avenue, and my house is the house directly across the street from this property. When Blake made the comment about a neighbor that wants to see it the way it is, that's kind of true, because I bought my house with horses across the street. I love the country feel within the city limits. But I would approve or agree with something was more acceptable as infill, but less dense. So I understand I can't have horses back there again. But I'd rather see it as is until we can get something that's more acceptable. The property, the 12 units on 2 acres, I live within a 2-acre parcel and 4 houses. And our driveway is very tight. Nobody can pass each other. There's no parking. The house in the back is a business. He has a business back there and a shop. And I just don't see how this would work with what I experience on a daily basis. There is a third, a middle in the street where you can turn lane. However, I sit there often to turn left into my driveway for a minute or whatever, just to turn in my driveway. And this is directly across the street, so they're going to utilize that same turn lane. And I just don't see how all these cars are going to sit in this turn lane waiting to cross this way or waiting to cross this way. And there's only the 4 houses, and they want 12. I appreciate that he's a local builder and he's, trying to make this work, and I understand City Council wants to do, infills and all that kind of stuff, and so I can appreciate all these things, but 7 houses would be much more acceptable, feel less cramped, less duplex or townhouse-like. It'd be more acceptable to what's in the neighborhood, which is all RS6. And I'm RA, and I rezoned 7 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that I rezoned to RA from RS. So if you look at all the other properties, across the street or even next door, whatever, it doesn't have the townhouse feel. It doesn't have any of that. And I'm just worried about my property value, and I'm worried about, just it fitting and living there. And it's gotten way more busy. The road and everything is just too much. So I would be in support of an RS6 zoning, and I feel like the RS4 is just too dense. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time to come.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Joe Morrow.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Joe Morrow. I live at 1500 Lake Lowell Avenue. I live just 2 homes down the street, and I'm concerned with the lot size and the overflow of car, truck, trailer parking outside of this development, which would overflow to Lake Lowell and the intersection of Spruce Creek. I'm not totally against development. I'm just against the lot width and the narrowness for what type of homes that would be built. I'm concerned that you can't, with these narrow lots, you can't build a 2-car garage home there, which then would, again, cause excess parking to be outside of this development. Yes, the lots meet the 4,000 square feet, but the buildability is really narrow, and what would you build? Like you said, 22 feet on this one lot is pretty tough. These lots are 37 feet, so the homes possibly that could be built are 27 feet, and I presume that your desk here is about that width, then with another 5 feet to your neighbors. So that's a pretty narrow house there. I'm just concerned that you can't have the 2-car garage and 2 cars parking on the driveway, and that this is spilling out and causing problems for me as a neighbor and the rest of my neighbors. So before you approve this, I would like you to go out into our community and look at the narrowest lots you can find and see what's there and actually measure them. You will find that this is very narrow, and probably, and I'm almost guaranteed that these are narrower than anything that you have approved before. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we do not have any more advanced signups.
Is there anyone else here this evening that had intended to testify on this public hearing? Yeah. Since you only get to testify once.
I have a neighbor that he couldn't come, and he was trying to do the online thing. Is anybody checking that?
Oh, okay, thank
No,
you.
we don't do online.
We don't do any online testimony. Sometimes,
When they give us advance notice, then we can give them the link.
okay, so is there someone online currently? There isn't any? Oh, okay. So just for reference, the YouTube does not have any ability to join online to make comments or anything. It's just for viewing purposes. And so anyone that wanted to testify would need to reach out to the city and sign up in advance. Yeah. So I'm so sorry, and hopefully he's listening. So to whoever that is, our apologies. Yeah, unfortunate, but thank you. Okay. So is there anyone else here that had intended to testify? Okay, seeing no one, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back and provide response or closing comments.
Yeah, so one thing that's hard to tell on paper on a 1D design is the road width is, the part you drive on the pavement is the same width as Spruce Creek Drive. And that road is parking on, they park on both sides. This development, you can only park on one side. So as far as like adequate, this is more than adequate parking, which answers a couple, both Jessica and Joe's concern about the parking and the street width. 37 feet is enough for a standard two-car garage and having a front-facing front door. This is an infill project. The lots and the houses will look different. It just comes with higher density and small space. They're not going to be real traditional, and we have to be okay with that with infill. If we eliminate, say, 2 lots in the north, and push the hammerhead north, it's really going to add maybe 8 feet or so to the 10 lots, 9 lots. And it's an insignificant amount that I don't see how that's going to make a big difference in the project to go from 12 to 10. And I could see if you were going from 12 to 6 or 7, that would be significant, but I can't do that. I really need to stick with the 12 buildable lots. As far as the 5-foot setbacks on each side of the house, that is becoming more common on even RS6 subdivisions. It's not a unique request there to have 5 and 5. Yeah, I believe that answers those questions.
So I have a quick
Concerns.
question about the open green space. So does this have the 15% minimum? And does that meet that? This meets that, is that correct? Sorry, I know.
So, Madam Mayor, this is not a preliminary plat at this point, so I didn't analyze it for the open space yet. It'll be required to meet our standard open space, and at the time they submit that preliminary plat.
Okay. What's difficult, and I'll just be really candid, what's difficult right now is that a lot of times we're looking at something and you do see, right, you're confirmed, which obviously you're going to have to meet the 15% open green space, but then also a discussion about how you're going to use that space. So I guess I would have you given thought to how
Yes.
how are you going to do that?
We designed this concept, my civil engineer did, that he can easily turn this into a preliminary plat, so it should be very close to this. Minus lot 10 will need some adjustment. But the common space at the north end is also going to double as our storm drain facility, but it will be grass and it will be flat and it will not be a swell. So
Thank you.
I hope that answers that question.
Are you going to put any amenities on that? And how large is that? Is that a similar size area?
It is roughly 3,700 square feet. I don't have glasses on. I was
Is
not
that
planning
lot-
to do.
Is
Go
that
ahead.
lot 14, I'm sorry, the one at the top that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay.
It's 3743.
And then remind me on the lot 1 at the bottom, is that also open green?
It's part of the calculation, but that is the frontage landscaping area, the
Does that-
required frontage.
Does that qualify for open if it's a ditch? It does not.
Madam Mayor, it doesn't unless there's some kind of pathway or something related to it. Not as 100%. But again, we look at these details when we're getting a preliminary plat. We just didn't do that detailed of an analysis at this point. I understand the concern, but I also would just say that we have those codes in place to guide exactly this. If there's concerns about the amount of open space being provided or how it's being provided, I think our code handles that.
The only thing I would say is, Rodney, as you know, and I agree with you, but on an annexation, it's the only opportunity that we have to set any standards. And so, for example, I really appreciate you saying that it is your storm drain, but that you're going to not have I think you said a swell. You're going to be having your storm drain underneath that. It's going to be a flat surface, which is awesome. Because I would recommend that, because the other just really is insufficient for families and kids to play, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's looking at exactly how you're going to use your space and the design. I'll let council members speak to the density, and some council members, I'm sure you guys have questions, but I just had a couple questions about your 15% minimum and your open green space and how you're using it. So thank you for answering those questions. Okay, Councilman Rodriguez.
Blake, I don't have a question for you. It's actually for Rodney, but I'll wait my turn until Rodney gets back. Oh, I can ask now? Okay.
Well, if you want to, well, this is Blake's time to.
Okay, let me ask Blake that. Okay, Blake, so the surrounding properties are all designated RS6. And I understand that in order to be contiguous to comply with our codes, that it should be an RS6 location. So, but you're saying you can't change that because of the amount of residents that you want to put on there. But to me, as a layman who doesn't do this, even though I've studied this enough, that I would say, what would be the difference for a lesser density? It only maybe 2-3 lots would go away, and you'd have the RS6. Does RS4 really make that much difference to you?
Yes, in this one it does. So the challenge with infills is that they're extremely expensive. You don't get to spread the cost of these fixed items primarily with the utilities that you would in, say, maybe a 5 to 20 acre parcel. So a street light, fire hydrant, storm facility, tapping the sewer main, tapping the water main, all those items can be diluted amongst many houses in a bigger project. With an infill, that's why so many of them want to go multifamily, because you just can't pencil it out. You need a lot of doors. And this one's no different. Then I've got this massive cleanup estimate of all these trees in this house. So that it just compiles on top of what the traditional expenses are with an infill project.
One thing that I am concerned about in this project is the parking. It's basically one 14-foot wide street with cars parking on the road, right? Is it 14 foot or is it bigger than that?
No, it's a standard road width.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you have in and out coming back and forth. And that's going to be really tight. I worry about that, but do you think that's an issue?
I do not. And it's really hard to see on paper, but if you take the pavement of the development just to the west, Bruce Creek, the pavement width is the same as that road. And if you drive by any time of day, there's parking on both sides and cars pass through. My proposal is the same road width with parking only legal on one side.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Yeah. And it'd be like a parallel fashion to the north parking your nose to the north.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Excuse me, my mic was not on, so no other questions for Mr. Wolf? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay. So before we close public hearing, I just want to ensure that we don't have any more questions that are going to come forward that our applicant is needing to ask. Is that correct? No questions on density? Okay.
I have questions on density, but it's
Okay.
too,
Okay. I'm going to leave public testimony open for just a minute. Let's go ahead and ask Rodney our questions, just in case we have a question that comes forward that the applicant needs to answer.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and ask
okay.
your
well, thank you.
question of Rodney.
Thank you. So Rodney, on the proposed findings for approval, it says annexation zoning proposed findings for approval. It says a property shall be contiguous with the city limits or be enclaved by their property so annexed. The north is RS6, south RS6, east RA, and west RS6. But now we're changing, to me, I'm going to call this a spot zone, whether it is or not, but it's changing the zone for the usability of the project. And I wonder where in our codes and ordinances that says that we're going to change based on building. What we should do is based on the surrounding area zones. Explain that for me.
Madam Mayor and Councilman, Councilman Rodriguez. I'm going to try to be clear here. It's kind of a technical answer. When you say spot zoning, I'm thinking legal concerns, right?
Okay.
And I go to the Idaho code for what spot zoning is, and this does not qualify as spot zoning. So I just want to kind of steer clear of that completely.
Okay.
Spot zoning is when you zone something that is not consistent with your comprehensive plan, okay, the future land use map. So,
Okay, I'll take that wording back.
okay.
But I think you get my point.
Yeah, so the question about matching existing single-family zones, so we have an RS zone in our code. It's an RS zone. It includes RS4, RS6, RS7, RS 8.5, RS 12, and so on, right? So it's kind of this broad range of densities within the RS zone. How the city of Nampa has developed over time is they've defaulted down to that. In the past, it was only an RS6 zone until the RS4 came along, the RS4 densities. So we have developed to that kind of minimum sized lot standard across the city. I mean, it's very broad areas of land that are RS6 zone. They have different sized lots in that RS6 zone, but we have it all over. And so just because they're the same zone all the way around it, though, doesn't mean that it doesn't fit within the context of our code or our comprehensive plan. It has to match our comprehensive plan designation, and the RS4 zone does match this. Whether it's compatible or not, that is definitely a decision you have to make.
Well, isn't that zoning dependent on size of that enclave property?
No, an RS4 zone, you could pick a really large area and zone it RS4. However, it's encouraged in our comprehensive plan and in our code to be for these infill type developments.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, thanks.
Councilman Griffin.
I have a question for Blake.
It's a good thing we left it open.
Well, and it's been answered, but I need clear reiteration that you would, this project cannot move forward as an RS6, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Follow up to Rodney on that. If this was an RS6, how many less lots would it have on it, roughly?
It's such a tricky question. I really have a hard time answering that. As you've seen even tonight, the applicant could go back and change some lot sizes to change things on his project. So it's really difficult. However, as he stated, if you look at the property right next door, on roughly that same space of land, they, or at least length, they are zoned RS6, and, excuse me?
And to the north, you did the L around it.
Yeah, and they do wrap around to the north, but if you just took the length of the project here, you're looking at 8 homes. So I'm guessing that's probably pretty close, but you probably could get even more density than what they've provided in the R6 zone. You could probably get a couple more. They've just decided to go, some of their lots a little bit bigger than is the minimum that is allowed. So my guess is it's somewhere around 10 dwelling units that could go there. But that's a guess, because I don't have the plan set there.
One thing.
And we have open space
Correct.
that's
The
required.
open space that
yeah.
we're requiring you 15% versus the RS6 is all the open, there is
That's
no
true.
open space. It's just.
And just a reminder about that, it's not, I tried to not say this because I want to make sure we're not getting hung up on analyzing code at this point, but code says that under 5 acres, it's actually 2 to 5 acres is only 10% open space. And that's because we're trying to encourage this type of a development to happen, infill to actually get developed.
Yeah, thank you. And I can appreciate the infill. We deal with this a lot, so we see it, and we know that this is challenging, so we understand where you're coming from with that. But where we see right here that Lot 10 isn't gonna work, I mean, not as it's written at least. And like Mayor said, this is our stage where we get to make certain conditions on it. So it's really hard when it's something that we know this isn't gonna be exactly how, but we can't put any conditions in addition to. So it just puts us in this weird situation where I was thinking that if we were to say, maybe if we did reduce the density some, I know that that's not your preferred, but if we were able to, it might give them an opportunity rather than deny, but give them the opportunity to pencil something else out, see if it could still work. And then bring it back to us to where it's a little bit more functional, we can see it a little bit better and make a better decision. Those are just my thoughts.
So I have just before we close public testimony, a comment and question for Blake. Blake, the work that you've done some great infill projects. One of the, in my opinion, density is really important, but another thing that is really important is the quality of the construction that you put in here. You're looking to put a higher density in here, that is a 4 versus a 6. I guess I would ask you about the quality, the design, because I know we don't get to do that here, and we do have design standards, but this is the only time we get to give input. And the design and what you put in, you can put, I mean, you don't do this, but I'm just going to use an example. You could put a cookie cutter, ugly, cheap product on there, and it would not enhance any values. Or you can put in something a little bit more custom that is great, that's going to be a positive asset right there, that's going to blend with some of the other homes around there, possibly. So what exactly are you wanting to put in there? I mean, if I were you, I know what I would say, but would you like to speak to that?
Well, as a developer, I like to have my many options for the exit plan, and one of them is to develop it all and sell as finished lots to another builder. So I would like to keep that option open. I have a builder that would like them. Plus, I obviously build too, and I would like them. But everything I do has to do with timing and where cash flow is, and I just like to have that exit plan, like as part of my exit plan. So I don't know how to answer that. I prefer to just sell this off as a finished product, like finished lots. smaller builders in our town do not have very many options for developments, and I'm finding that to be a very popular request from the stuff I've been doing, is builders want to just buy the lots. And I'm moving more towards that, but to answer your question, if I'm putting a product in there, I want it to sell, so I don't want it to look bad. I mean, it's got to be able to make the market and attract the buyer. So I really don't know how to answer that question exactly how, and be honest with you about it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. It was a very difficult question to answer. So, but thank you. I appreciate you explaining that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Council.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, you may.
If, let's say we reduce this by 2 lots, and in a year and a half, this thing is all built out, I don't think any of us are going to drive by that development and say, oh, I'm so glad that went from 10 to 12, from 12 to 10, and be able to, drive 35 miles an hour and look down there and be able to see that that's a big difference. Well, as the developer, 2 lots is a big difference in this project. And so I just want you to think through that too. Like if it were just reduced by a few lots, it's not going to look visually hardly any different. The lots will be slightly larger, the frontage, but any way you cut it up, there's got to be a road along the east side, and they're going to be lined up like they are with the front doors facing east.
Okay, thank you. Council, any other questions from this side? Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Mayor, really quick
Yes.
before we do, can we, because that gentleman online that Jessica had mentioned, can we just, since we can't hear his testimony, can we at least know if he was for or against the project? Is that something we can know?
I don't know. Is that something that we could have someone come forward that hasn't testified this evening that has the answer to that question? I don't
think so.
I just
I
wanted
don't
him
think
to be
so.
able to at least share what he was,
I don't know if we,
It doesn't sound like there's a way to verify that, so.
that's okay. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this is an opportunity for council discussion and then a motion. Is there any council discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
My question for legal, before I dive in, based off of what we've heard from testimony from the developer, is it within our purview to reduce or increase the RS to RS6, or a denial rather in order? So if I claim, because that's a significant change, because if my math, and it's a tough calculation, as Rodney said, it would drop it from 12 to 8 lots if we did RS6, 7 more like, but 8 lots. Is that grounds for just an outright denial, or would a motion to approve as an RS6, if that's the council's will, be more in order?
And maybe that yields a question in my mind to Rodney. Is it possible to keep the RS4 and still reduce the number of lots?
Absolutely. Excuse me, Mayor and Todd. Yeah, if we look back on the densities and the lot sizes, let me see if I can find that. There it is. The lot sizes go up to a maximum lot size of 8,000 square feet. So you could get a lot size in the RS4 that fits within the RS6 designation pretty easily.
So with that, then, Mayor, thank you, Rodney, and Councilmember Griffin. The RS6 is a different zone. Granted, it's less dense, but you're getting more into the substantial change area. It would be better to keep the RS4 and then deal with your development agreement that could specify your density and number of lots. Handle it that way. What you have to weigh is what Mr. Wolf said in regard to that.
Thank you. So my comments, Mayor, my comments then just go to, for the sense of continuing what the surrounding area is like, what the neighbor consideration is in it. I understand that it's an infill. I was leaning more towards the 8-lot number to be conducive to the surrounding area. I actually think it's tough in this sense to even require a green space or pocket park in this development because it is so infill that I would even lean towards not having that green space requirement, but maybe we do, and I just keep going back and forth. I think the density is the issue for me, nonetheless, and that's why I kept reiterating, could we do anything less? Mine isn't so much as going from 12 to 10, but 12 to 8, and that makes it even less viable for you, and that's where I have the difficulty. Parking I don't see as a concern, traffic I don't see as a concern, it's just strictly density, and looking at what's in front of us, Section E, talking about the proposed use and set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with the existing adjoining properties. I think 12 is not. Difference of opinions potentially.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have, yes, Councilman Haverfield?
Mayor, I was just going to make a comment. My mind was pretty much made up at the beginning of this process after reviewing the information in the packet. I like the concept. I don't like the density. I think that the RS6 to the west, well, basically all around this project, would lend itself, in my mind, to 8 lots along the western boundary and 1 on the north, to a total of 9, and then that would give enough room for the common space to be provided. I like the idea of the street parking in an expanded width of the main roadway going through there, because it makes it pretty much uniform through the whole length of the property. But my thoughts were, it's been stated by the applicant that that many lots were required. If they were a little bit larger lots, I feel that the value of those lots being bigger would have a better value or more value. So I think it's a market-driven decision by someone else to come in and buy the lots, but if they were a little bit larger, they'd be a lot more flexible to be able to develop something on. So I am not in support of the 12 lots. I'm fine with the RS4 with a maximum of 9 lots myself.
Okay, any other comments from council?
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Yes, and this neighborhood has already spoken. Apparently, we didn't get a list of all those who did speak, or did go to the meeting. But two of the things that I worry about is compatibility. That's a big one for me, and also the density. So I won't be supporting this project.
Okay. Any other discussion and/or a motion?
Can we get a motion on the screen?
Pardon? Thank you.
Mayor, and I'm looking kind of for a nod from council, now hearing the exit plan as well, and I think it was a good comment to be made, that we don't necessarily have to deny it outright, but we could say 9 lots, like Councilman Haverfield has said, and you could sell it potentially to a developer or somebody else paper plotted, as what we're proposing, something that we want, and then have the market take it if they want to. I know for you specifically, you can't necessarily do it anything less than 12, but I am actually leaning into a motion of approval with the condition of 9 lot maximum, and then if it's sellable, you can sell it to the next developer or local developer if they're willing to have it pencil and work out in that sense, rather than an outright denial, because infill needs to be filled. It's going to come before us again, and maybe we can avoid that step of having it come before us again by allowing 9 lots, or we want to see it again with a full design and review of what the build looks like. So it could go either way.
Mayor?
Yes.
So I appreciate, Councilman, what you're sharing or saying in terms of, I think it helps give the applicant some direction, and he's already stated that below 12 doesn't work. To me, the same option exists to find somebody else for the property or a different deal, and then it's still before planning and zoning and council as far as annexation and zoning. I think to annex and zone it and say here's so many units is allowed on this property is nebulous from the standpoint of what comes thereafter.
So I think what I hear you saying is that it's, to do it really, you've got a development agreement that you would put in place, and you're saying that that's a little bit difficult to go ahead and approve the annexation and zoning to RS4 with the maximum number of lots, which would be your development agreement, not to exceed 9 lots in a development agreement. That's actually doesn't really accomplish much. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, based on what the applicant has said.
Right.
So it seems like we're trying to take the lead on the zoning and the development agreement, and that's not what the applicant's asking for.
Okay.
And what you're suggesting is obviously workable. To say it's 9 buildable lots zoned RS4 and need it from there with that agreement by then the applicant or the next person who takes the property with that recorded development agreement, but the agreement's, has to be then assignable.
Understand.
So then, we're trying to future develop this piece of property on behalf of whoever's forthcoming.
The one thing it does, and this may be good or bad, the one thing it does is in some ways it protects the adjoining homeowners from a multifamily development in a future council, because it is approved at RS4 with a development agreement, maximum lots of 9, versus a denial, which would then leave it open to anything.
Madam Mayor,
To come back.
just wanted to clarify, this is medium-density residential on the comprehensive plan future land use map, so multifamily is not a permitted use there.
It's not a permit, so it could not
Correct.
come back.
Not as multifamily.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, Councilman Haverfield and Griffin.
So I guess my question is, an approval of the RS4 with a development agreement limitation to 9 lots is not binding if they choose not to pursue it. We can give that approval tonight, but they need to agree to it after the fact as well, correct?
Mayor, I heard the end of that, and I think he was saying, Councilman Haverfield was saying the same thing that Daniel and I were talking about. If the applicant doesn't agree to what is decided tonight, there's nothing that requires them to finalize this project. Is that what was being stated here?
That was the question. So thank you
Yeah,
for
so they can
clarifying.
withdraw, and it just goes back to an enclave property that's not annexed.
Our decision might be that, but that might not be what they agree to. So they could walk away from that decision.
So in some ways, I could be wrong on this, please tell me I could be wrong, but maybe it would be more beneficial to approve it with the development agreement. If that's the direction we're going, then he can choose whether he wants to move forward and sell that or not, because if he doesn't accept it, it's done. Is that correct? Okay, so Councilman Griffins? I just want to make sure I understand it.
And I overheard a comment. How quickly does that development agreement need to be signed before it expires?
We actually don't have anything in code to require a certain time frame for them to sign that development agreement. We've gone long periods of time when that's happened in the past and something is missing. They can't get approval from another agency or something, and it takes a really long time. So there's nothing in code that restricts that from local code that I know of.
Todd?
If I might, also a question, Rodney, but we wouldn't bring back the final ordinance until the development agreement was ready and both sides
That's
agreed.
correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So with that, what is the will of the council?
Mayor?
Yes.
I'll take a jump at it. I move to approve of the annexation and zoning to RS4 single-family residential and potential development agreement for future residential subdivision Saddle Creek at Lake Lowell at 1408 Lake Lowell Avenue, a 2.06 acre parcel, R32019000000 for Blake Wolf, annexation 00311-2024, and adopt the proposed findings in the staff report as well as a condition within the development agreement to not exceed 9 buildable lots.
It's been moved and seconded.
Mayor, could I ask one question of staff? Rodney, with that, would you need a revised site plan to attach to the development agreement?
Yeah, I would.
I would ask that, for clarification, that the motion in the second would add that there's a revised site plan that's put in. I feel like what went on at Lake Lowell, a mile out on that townhome apartment complex.
Lone Star.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of misconceptions because of the vagueness of what was specified could happen on that property. The applicant 2 months ago or a month ago thought was meeting a good deal. I think we leave it open if we don't narrow it down.
Amendment approved or accepted?
Add a modified site.
And to add a modified site plan.
Second agrees.
Okay. So there is a motion and a second on the table. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chingula?
No.
Bills?
No.
Reynolds?
No.
Hammerfield?
Yes.
Griffin?
Yes.
Madam Mayor, there's a tie.
Excuse me. I
Yeah.
voted wrong, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did,
You did, okay.
Yes.
So your vote is?
no.
Madam Mayor, the motion fails.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you. Okay, so that motion, so we had a motion. With that one fails. So do we need a motion? We'll need another motion to move forward. Okay, and is there another motion to move forward?
My original motion, I move to deny the annexation and zoning to RS4, single-family residential and potential development agreement for a future residential subdivision, Shadow Creek at Lake Lowell, at 1408 Lake Lowell Avenue, a 2.06 acre parcel, RS3201900000 for Blake Wolf, annexation 00311-2024, because the project fails to comply with subsection E 10-2-3.C.2, and I'll scroll up. The proposed map amendments are or would provide for a proposed use or set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses. I disagree with the statement because of the surrounding property uses being RS6 residential, and that's my motion.
And that was to deny. I'll second.
So it has been moved and seconded to deny the annexation and zoning for this property. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I just want, I'd like, if it's okay, I'd like to ask Todd a question about this. Does this set a standard for compatibility to be the same zoning as what's next door?
Madam Mayor and Rodney, each case is unique, so I don't think it sets a binding precedent. And additionally, this is an annexation, which allows for a lot of discretion with the city in making that decision. I don't think it sets a binding precedent. It kind of has an expression of council, but it's not a binding precedent.
Mayor, I just wanted to make sure that's clear, because if we get into a situation in the future and it's not the same, but it's recommended for approval, or it's approved by the council, this doesn't set that precedent. So I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Mayor?
Yes.
I would like to also make an additional comment to add an extra layer to this, not even specifically the RS6 not being met, but the similar size lots within the same amount of space not being met. And that's why I chose subsection E rather than D. D specifically is talking about the comprehensive plan, and that says medium residential. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about E, compatibility. I believe, and it's been the opinion of others, that 9 units 8 to 9 units would be more compatible compared to the surrounding area, and for that reason, I would move to deny.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other discussion or comment? Roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Bills.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
No.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
Blake, thank you for coming forward this evening. Thank you. Okay, we are going to move, and thank you for the others that joined this evening. We are going to move to 8.3 on the agenda. This is an action item. This is the vacation of a public utility drainage and irrigation easement, future street right-of-way easement, and the right-of-way associated, which are with 3 properties on the Madison Acres subdivision, which have never been used and serve no purpose now, and they're specifically identified portions of 4.02 acres in 3 parcels, addressed as 16261, 16285, 16317 Madison Road in the Light Industrial Zoning District. This is for Kent Brown representing Adler, AB owner V LLC. Good evening, Kent. Thank you for being here.
For the record, Kent Brown, 3161 East Springwood. This is a copy from the plat. If you were looking at it north-south, the portion that's already been vacated back in 2002 is at the top, is at the north. And as you look at that, when they vacated that portion, they basically removed all the easements that we're here asking for today. Adler owns the property in and around this area and adjacent, both north and south. Their intent is to use the existing zoning for industrial on this piece of property, and gone to the easement holders, asked them if they had any need for the easements. There was, back in 1973, when this plat was originally done, these were like single-family houses, I believe probably out in the county. And there's still 3 houses left on those properties. They have overhead power going to them. Idaho Power released everything except the one that feeds the house on Lot 1. Everything else has been released. They said if we could take down that pole that sits in that right-of-way, that they're good to release that, so we'll do that in the future. But as long as there's the people living in the houses, they still need power. And the overhead lines come across the street and over to a single pole and feed each house individually. I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you. Christy.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The request before you today is vacation of right-of-way in 2 areas and vacation of easement in 2 areas. The 2 right-of-way areas are the red and the green on this map, and the 2 easement areas are the yellow. So if we flip it so that north is north, Karcher Road would be to the bottom, Madison Road would be to the east. This property is completely surrounded by IL-zoned properties. It has already been annexed and zoned that way for many, many years. The applicant stated their request. It is in the public interest to allow orderly development and allow a developer to to use their property to its fullest potential. When an easement is not located in an appropriate location or is no longer in use, it can be potentially relocated or abandoned. That's state code. Staff notes that a vacation is permanent. If a vacation were to be approved, the vacation would still apply even if the property were to redevelop in an alternative way. That northern section, as stated, was vacated as a whole, so that plat area went away completely in 2002. The correspondence we received all indicated no comment. Findings for a vacation are that the request was processed in accordance with Idaho State Code. and that it is in the public interest to allow a vacation and make this a more developable property. These are the recommended conditions of approval. I asked that they provide the legal descriptions for all 4 areas to be vacated. I only received the right-of-way documents initially. In the meantime, they were able to provide me with all 4, so that condition has been satisfied. These are your potential motions, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Christy? Seeing none, thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for this item.
Thank you. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening? Seeing none, Kent, thank you for closing comments.
Make it really quick. This has become a big part of my business, which I don't like. Dealing with the utility companies that don't want to respond. The Quest or CenturyLink or whichever entity that you want to view, you contact someone local and it goes to Louisiana. I don't know how they know where you got utility lines in Nampa, Idaho, but it has become terrible. And the closer that we can do in the future, many of the utility lines we used to have in the rear of the residential lots, well, that's where they were being installed, and now they're all being installed in the street. A service to your house for power and gas, your sewage line, water line are services, and they don't require an easement. And the better job that we can do not creating this problem for the Kent Browns down the line is a benefit for all of us. And that's my only comment, is this becomes a necessary evil because we try to plan for the future and write a blank check to the utility company that didn't respond in the first place because they knew they weren't going to run anything there, but we did it. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Kent, thank you. And we deal with the same issues on other areas. Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I would stand for a
Mayor, I
motion.
move that we close the public hearing.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, what is the will of the council?
Mayor, I move to approve the vacation of public utilities, drainage and irrigation easement, future street right-of-way easement, and right-of-way associated, which are 3 properties in the Madison Acres subdivision located within properties addressed as 16261, 16285, and 16317 Madison Road in the IL zoning district for Kent Brown representing Adler, AB owner, V, LLC, vacation 000702024, with the proposed findings listed in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Chingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Griffin? Reynolds?
Yes.
Bills?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you both for your work. For Adler. Kent,
Mayor, I
thank
move
you.
that we
Adjourn.
adjourn. Thank you for the word.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. What's that?